Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SavvyCast. This is Jamie, and I'm so grateful to all of you who are joining, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast. Okay, Father's Day is right around the corner. So, at the request of several of you, I am having my three daughters, along with their dad, my husband, Zane. If you heard the one with my daughters and me for Mother's Day, it will take a similar format of just letting everyone share from her perspective what Zane did right as a dad and maybe some things he didn't do so great or what he might have done wrong. So, guys, we're going to skip the icebreaker question because y'all did that on mine. So we'll jump right into it, and happy Sunday to all of you.
Happy Sunday.
For those watching on YouTube, we've got the firstborn, and then me, and then the secondborn, and then Zane and the baby at the bottom.
And we got Blue right here.
Oh, we've got a sweet Blue, the golden doodle. We're so thrilled. I'm always thrilled to have dogs
Golden Retriever.
On the SavvyCast. Okay, so guys, let's just jump right in. And people might ask, why are you doing this? Why does anyone care? Maybe people don't care, but I love to know dynamics of different families. I think people are just also different in the way different personalities in one family unit work together. And it's just intriguing. And I think we can learn a lot from each other. And for those who did not catch our episode on the girls and me, I'm going to just go through and let each of you tell who you are, what you're doing, and tell your Enneagram number, because I think, and tell what number that number signifies. That's pretty key, in my opinion. Ellie, you're the firstborn. We'll start with you.
My name's Ellie, and I own a nutrition business, Vulcan Nutrition. I work part-time as a nurse in pediatric anesthesia, and I coach some CrossFit on the side as well. So I dabble in a lot of different things. I am an Enneagram 3, which is actually what my dad is as well. So
which is the performer.
Yes. For performer, achiever, you could call it any of that. But I have a very strong 4 wing, which is what Emma is. So I think I'm a good mix between a 3 and a 4.
And the 4 is, I always say unicorn, but it's the individualist. Is that right?
Yeah. I think that's a good way. Just very like nostalgic and I guess emotional at time. Or yeah, I guess that could be.
Thank you, Ellie. Mary Judson, but we call her Judd. Judd, what about you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Judd. I work at UAB Hospital in surgery. I'm a surgical nurse, and I love getting to do that. And on the Enneagram, I'm a number 2. So that's the helper.
The nurturer, the mother, you mother people. Okay. Yeah. Very, very tender and feelings more easily hurt than some other Enneagram numbers, maybe.
Very true.
Okay. Now to the baby, Emma.
Hello, my name is Emma, and I am an Enneagram type 4, which is, it just says self-aware, sensitive, and reserved. So
where are you, Emma, and what do you do?
Oh, I'm in Auburn, Alabama right now, and moving to Florida in a week for the summer to work. And I'm in marketing, on track to get my marketing degree, and I'm planning to move to California after college.
Awesome. Okay, Zane, can you tell everyone what you do and your Enneagram number? Then we'll dive in.
Yeah, and it's awesome to be on with my daughters and my bride. And Judd, you have Owen Carr as your name.
Oh, I know. This is Owen's computer after church. I didn't have time to go.
Yeah, and Owen is her fiance, and we love Owen. And Sean is Ellie's husband. We love him, and we're praying for Emma's husband wherever he is. I'm Zane, and been married 35 years to Jamie, have these beautiful twins and my baby Emma. And I buy and sell companies for a living. And I'm still not sure why I'm on this Enneagram to let my daughters critique me as a dad and with my wife, but I'm doing it for FamSav.
Okay. All right. Well, guys.
On the Enneagram?
I'm a 3 wing 2, performer, image keeper, competitive. When I'm healthy, I'm a really nice guy. When I'm not healthy, I will try to manipulate.
Deceivers. Joseph. No, was it Joseph the code of, Joseph. Yeah. Joseph the biblical 3. And I'm an 8, and I do think that does come into play in this. I'm an Enneagram 8, which is the challenger, and I think someone alluded to this as far as Zane and me, and it's sort of not typical in all families. It might be more in some cultures, but I'm Zane is the more nurturing one of the two, and I'm the more probably, I don't really know what terminology to use, just practical. And anyway, but it's not about me. So guys, let's just start with your dad. Ellie, you started first last time. Why don't you tell what it was like to be your dad's daughter? What did he do right? We're going to start with maybe what he did the best. And I know he did a lot of great things. So maybe pick the main thing, and you can maybe address one more thing if you have time.
For the purposes of not being redundant, because I have a feeling I know what Judd and Emma are going to say, I'm going to say something that meant a lot to me, but might not be the primary thing, because that's going to be what Judd and Emma say. But I think something that Dad did very well is he established a very strong presence in my life. And I'm just going to speak for myself, but there wasn't a game or an event that he missed. And I think Dad would be someone who had a very good reason if he did have to miss it. Like, his work was very consuming, and I saw that he made a concerted effort to be present at everything he could be present at for me. And that just went such a long way in establishing that, one, that what I loved was important to him. And in turn, like, because I loved something, he knew there was something to love in it. And that just always really resonated with me. And then the other thing was something that I'm actually writing about in my book, is that Dad was always, every single time I saw him in the morning, he was always either doing his first fruits, is what he called it, or on his way to work to do his first fruits. And what that was just spending time in God's word and praying and reading the Bible. And that gave me a sense of security as a kid that was just so pivotal, I think, in just growing up, knowing that my dad was seeking the Lord and knew that he could be wrong and that he needed God's guidance and direction. And so naturally I followed suit in that as best I could, just because I knew it was the most important thing to Dad. It was the first thing he did every day, prayer and spending time in God's word. So that was the two things that came to mind.
That's
Emma's already crying down there.
No, I'm
too. That was very sweet, y'all. Thank you.
And I'm sure somebody would probably mention this, but he still almost every morning on the family text, Dad sends a verse.
This morning it was a little church emoji. That's all
Yeah,
it was.
I sent a long paragraph. It was like literally about something completely different. All he sent was a steeple.
That probably meant I'm in church. Here's an emoji, because we were in church. We were in church at the time. You wouldn't think this morning because we have guests.
I took it as, this is your reminder to make sure you're prioritizing the Lord's Day. That's what I took it as. But
Okay, well, that's good.
You took it right, Judd. That was way before church.
Oh, okay. I see.
Awesome.
I wasn't on the family text this morning. Okay, that's good, Ellie. Okay, Judd, middle child, the second twin.
Dad truly, and I'm not just saying this to, as Emma would say, be a cookie cutter daughter, but truly Dad was the most amazing dad ever. I mean, Dad, everything Ellie said was 100% true. I'll kind of go a different direction in saying you continually spoke so much life into the three of us. I never went a second without just being affirmed and, spoken into. And something that I think you've done well my whole entire life, and even specifically now and more so through different seasons, is that you are an amazing listener. You will sit down with me for however long I need, honestly, to just ask me questions, to see how I am, to listen to my heart and just give me wisdom and advice. And so for that, I'm forever grateful. And, you're also the most amazing spiritual leader in the world. And you also just love people so well. And you always brought our family into that. And you always made us feel as loved as every single person you met. And you made us just feel like we were the most important people in the world, and that our people were also important to you.
Thank you, Judd. This is very encouraging.
Very, very good. Okay, Emma.
I am only crying.
The baby. And Emma, the baby, meaning you are 4.5 years younger
Yes.
than your sisters. And I do think you have said that your experience just was different. They were like one unit, basically. Y'all were always in the same grades. You had the same group of friends. Y'all did a lot together as one. And then Emma, 4.5 years later. So your perspectives might be the same, but there are some differences. But you proceed.
That's so sweet.
Well, I'm crying because and my voice is going to quiver a little, but all my friends, if you ask anyone who I go to, anyone at Auburn, random people who don't know me, my close friends, I like can't not talk about dad every single day. He's something dad said, something I admire about dad. Like I'm always talking about dad. And I mean, I know it may not seem like that because, you know, sometimes I can be hard, but I would say the one thing that he did the best out of, you know, anything that I've ever seen in anyone of any of the dad of any man I've ever met is I have never heard a raised voice, a raised tone. And I think me growing up in that and being able to like see such a wonderful example of like, oh my goodness, always seeking the Lord. You're just the most kind and selfless person in the entire world, and nothing is about you. You've never made one thing about you. You're the most selfless person I've ever met. And also, like, I look at my voicemails, and every single day it's, hey, it's Papa. You'll be like, hey, beautiful. Like, you'll always say something so encouraging to me, and then list like an hour-long voicemail of why you're proud of me and giving me goals and tips. And you just invest your time in us and other people better than anyone I've ever met. And I can't say enough good things.
Oh, that's so.
And you've always been so available to us too. I don't care if I called you like 1 a.m. or, you know, I don't care if you're at a speaking event across country, you would, you know, step out of a meeting or whatever just to be available and to make sure that you prioritized us. And also, Emma's true. I've never heard you raise your voice like my entire life. And the one time we even did kind of get into stuff.
It was in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru. I'm so sorry, Judd.
No.
Yeah, because be honest, that was a raised voice.
No,
and it's rare.
It wasn't a raised voice,
but it wasn't a mean voice.
No, but you're so
firm.
humble and you're so quick to apologize whenever you've done something. And I think that's just like such a dad of humility, like just to say, hey, I'm far from perfect and I'm so sorry. And you've just been the greatest like example of like our Heavenly Father and a human person that I've ever seen. So thank you for that.
I was about to say.
Well, those are very, very, and I agree with all of those. What are some things like, as far as if you had to choose one of your favorite memories, and it could be something that happened over and over, or just something that you'll like, if you're thinking of dad when he's gone, what are some of those sweet memories? Whether it's playing in the yard. I mean, one that I have is when y'all were little. Now, Emma, you were young when this was going on, is the yard. I'm looking at it from my window right now, across the street, Dr. Vaughn and the kids. Literally 5 or 6 days out of the week, it seems like y'all were playing football with Dr. Mike, John, David, and Laura Catherine for hours.
Every day.
Because Dr. Mike is very much like dad. He's the dad that plays, that has fun. Just memories like that. What else? What are some things that are sweet memories that you'll hold dear forever? And you don't have to go in order if you don't want to.
Yeah, I have a lot. So Judd and Emma, y'all go ahead and start. I'll think of one.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say immediately what pops in my mind was dad when we went to father-daughter JH. It was a few years ago. I was nearing the end of my high school, but that was one of the most special weeks of my life with you. And also I loved our father-daughter trips to California, Las Vegas. Where else did we go, Ellie? Arizona. Those were. Can
you explain to people who might be listening? There might be some young dads who want some ideas. Okay, JH Ranch, and I will link to that. Unbelievable. And father, daughter, mother, son. I mean, there are myriad ways that can manifest. So I'll link to JH Ranch. What did those, because you took several different dads and friends of yours, just give a nutshell what that looked like, a father-daughter trip.
Dad, you can share about our father-daughter trips. I mean, really, you just literally spent intentional time with us. But do you want to add anything to that, Dad?
Yeah, and thank you all. And I want, hopefully some young dads will get helped, especially when we talk about things that I wish I had done differently. But those trips, just spending time, and with all of you, the trips that we took together, quantity time is a special, special thing, especially with y'all alone. And since Mom didn't like to travel, she always was very open for me being with y'all. I went with all of y'all to your Washington, D.C. trips, and just special time. And so, and I just got to know y'all, and y'all, I love watching people with y'all. One of my favorite things to do is watch other people. And I can remember in Las Vegas, Ellie, watching people with you early in the morning coming in. We were just talking about their lives and are they really happy and all that. And Emma, so many times, we would watch people and look at them and judge. So anyway, just processing that together. What a sweet, sweet time to be able to spend quantity time with your daughters. So that's a blessing. And it's something, y'all been real sweet, even in your adult life. Y'all are all adult kids, to still be open to travel with me. And Ellie, that's still one of my dreams, is to travel with you again to CrossFit. Sean said we could, you're married, and Joe, I'd love to travel with you. And then baby Emma really loves to travel. We're trying to get a trip right now before she goes back to Florida. So anyway, travel as much as you can with your kids.
And y'all took dear friends with that. Usually there were two dads, and y'all each got to take a friend, and usually it was the same friend. So how was that impactful, having another dad and a friend along on the trip?
Yeah, I think I can remember some of the conversations we had, like with Mark Ware and Franny and we went through Vegas to go to, we went to California, then we went to Utah, which was awesome. And just some of the conversations we got to have about the world and, life seeking God rather than, the worldly attachments that out there look so awesome. And people are like, why do you have Judd and Ellie, y'all were what, 16 years old, maybe 15? Probably. Why do you have them in Las Vegas? Well, it was a cheap flight. Number one, we got to Las Vegas, then we drove everywhere. But special time for those kind of conversations. And same with Emma and me. We've been able to process things together that probably you wouldn't do in everyday life around the dinner table. And so the dads, and the other thing I would say for young dads and moms, sometimes letting your husband go off on a trip, I don't have sons, but it changes the dynamic. And mom, I don't say this wrong, but you're not the best traveler, but you let us travel. And then, I don't say this wrong, but it would have been about you if we had traveled together. I'd have been worried about, is mom happy? Is mom doing this? Mm-hmm. But since I had you girls, we could kind of process the trip from a different lens than I would have processed it if it was a full family vacation.
And before Ellie and Emma go, I just want to also say that is amazing as the extravagant trips were. Like something that trumps every single one of those trips is going out to just Marble Valley and hanging with you at the land. Like those trump all and will hold probably the most special.
And there was so many times in our life, and I'll tell you, we didn't have the money to do all this. I mean, we went to the Sipsey Wilderness. We went 3 times to the Sipsey Wilderness and camped out with the Vaughns, and that was amazing.
Ellie, did you want to add anything to that? Or?
I was just going to answer your original question about just something that comes to mind. And I'll just preface with the fact that, so my answer is yes, it's the trips that Dad took me on for all of my CrossFit competitions, but specifically the one that I remember most is the one to Texas right before I was going to get married. And I was in college at that point. Like I could have gone on my own, but Dad took me to Texas. He didn't know anything about CrossFit. And I just remember I have a video doing a workout that Dad was recording. He had no idea what was going on. He's just like screaming at the top of his lungs and yelling all these hilarious slogans that I have so many Facebook comments about, because Dad was he had no clue what was going on, but he was so invested because he knew how much I love it. And I go back and rewatch that video and cry so many times just because he didn't even know he was doing it. But just my personality, like my whole life, I've always thought like I could be more loved if I'm successful at something or if I am achieving something, not because y'all made me feel that way, but just intrinsically, that's how I am. Maybe it's because I'm a twin. Like I just felt like I was only loved if I could achieve things. But Dad specifically, like I just knew I had the security in his love that like I could go out and fail and get last place. And he just is so proud of me and loves me so much, regardless, that like now in my life, I don't have this massive pressure or fear of failure that I won't be loved, because he just like loved being with me and supporting me in something that I love. And I just cry thinking about it all the time, because I don't know where I would be right now if I felt like I was always trying to like earn the approval of my dad. And Mom, your approval mattered a lot to me, like so much, but I think specifically because Dad and I are a lot alike in sports and everything. Like I just have a lot of friends that they did have to kind of earn approval and love. And it wasn't like maybe as blatant as I'm making it sound, but man, I'm just like so thankful for that. Like all these pictures I have of dad leaning over the rails, like screaming and cheering for me, not because I was doing well, but just because he like loved me so much. And so that's just really what sticks out to me.
Mm-hmm. Dad, the term cheerleader is very applicable to dad, like with each of you. And I see that he is my biggest cheerleader in everything that I do with the blog and the podcast. And it's a gift, I think, for dad. I think it comes naturally for dad, but that's something that anybody can learn to do, is maybe be more mindful of cheering other people on in the things they enjoy or the things they're, good at. So that is a trait I definitely see, not just with y'all, but with other people, our friends, and with me. So being a cheerleader. Okay. Emma, you were about to say something.
I wanted to add something really quick. And I think this is the perfect example, a quick example of who dad is, just to the core. He took me 2 years ago, me and my two best friends, to Miami, and we were staying in a hotel, and my dad booked for us. And then he went and stayed with some people who lived a little bit farther down. And on that trip, Cam, our old dog, was currently at home in the stages of passing away. A marriage was at the brink of falling apart that my dad was having to deal with in Miami. And then also, he's worried about me and my three friends who are 30 minutes down the highway at a random hotel. He's commuting back and forth, coming to see us. He rented a red minivan. But the one thing about everything about this, and my the friends that were on the trip say this all the time, he had, Mom, you were calling, of course, because that was a traumatic event with Cam. You were calling, and then, he was dealing with two people that were bickering and arguing. He was trying to save a marriage, and then also balance me and my three friends and keep us happy. Not once did he show it on his face. Not once could he not handle what was happening. You would never, the trip ended, and my friends Sarah Shay and Liza were like, wait, you would have never known that anything was going on, yet his whole world was like, that's a nightmare. If I was under that pressure, I would be evil. And so it's just a testament to nothing. He is, when the Lord, trials, Dad, you thrive in them because you always say, I love having trials because it lets me know that the Lord is testing. You are just so, your outlook is beautiful on everything. And you put yourself last every time without fail. And you just do things so well. And that trip, I will just remember for the rest of my life that is just who you are.
Well, y'all are so sweet. Jamie, I wanted to do this to try to help some people. Can we get into some things that I wish I had done better, and hear from the girls? To be honest, y'all have been so encouraging to me, and I love this. But as we're processing this, I know y'all care about dads and daughters. Let's talk about some things that I could have sharpened, or, I was just ignorant on. I didn't know how to do them best, because I think that could be probably most valuable to any listener.
Ellie, are you want to start?
What if I start before they say anything? I'd be curious. I know y'all probably know what you're going to say. I'd written down a couple of things. When you asked me to do this, Jamie, it was mainly to process some of the things I wish I'd done better. And first of all, girls, I want to tell you, and I know processing this with other people in mom's format, I would love just to be sitting around a table with y'all, but y'all are beautiful souls, and, kids are just a joy. And I would tell any parents, have more babies. Just have more babies if you can. To this day, my girls have heard me say this. I've never heard a man, never, say they wish they'd had less kids when they're my age. Never. Please have babies. They're the joy of my life. A couple of things y'all said, and I want to share this. This is a joy. I just wrote this down. Number one, I wish I'd handled stress better. You girls said you didn't see it on my face, and had a disposition to be, joyful and happy and loud and competitive. But there were times, the stresses of this life and business and marriage, and there were some times I did not handle it well. And I think I tried to hide it from y'all, but I think some of my expressions and maybe things like that, I can think back. I wish I'd handled and processed stress better. I don't think that I could have talked to y'all about it because I didn't want to give y'all fear, when I was struggling with some things, but I think I could have handled stress better. Another thing, Ellie, that I'll say, you said this on results, and Emma, you and I have talked about this. I am a 3. I do have a a sometimes unhealthy relationship with competition and results. I think I started noticing everybody said I was such an encourager, but it was mainly around results, even good grades, good in sports, effort. If you tried hard, character. Oh, I love your character. I saw fortitude. I love the way you were grateful. But at the end of the day, a lot of my cheerleading was around results, even if it was just being a good person. Oh, you were a great person. Oh, you read your Bible. It was real results oriented. And the older I'm getting, the more the Lord is in a sweet, precious way, so I don't melt, teaching me to just be in love with y'all's beautiful souls, who y'all are as people. It's not always about what you do or how you act. It's just y'all are an amazing soul that God gave me. And I wish I could have complimented or made y'all feel it's just who you are as a person. So I think I'm going to try to do better with my grandkids and not be so results oriented. Even I turned everything into a competition, and I thought that was fun. But at the end of the day, I think that was a little bit of my brokenness. And then the last thing, and I'm going to say this, somebody that's my age, most of you girls, y'all know I've done this, getting to share it with y'all, my real struggles that I kind of hid from y'all when you were growing up. As adult kids, I can't tell y'all how safe I feel with all y'all to tell y'all that your dad is broken. And even at this stage of my life, to try to work on myself. And I've had support. Emma, you and I have had some very deep discussions. And sometimes you don't want to hear them. Like, Dad, I don't want to hear that about you. But my healing has been so a part of being able to be open to you girls at this stage that there were times in my life where I was really struggling with this world. And y'all's love and forgiveness and compassion for me has been beautiful. So I'm just going to tell you dads, if any dads listen to this, as you get older, the beautiful thing to sit with your daughters, and I've sat with Ellie and her husband a little bit and told them about, some of the things I was struggling with in times they had no idea. And y'all have been so loving and supportive of me. And Judd, I'm a little more sensitive with you telling you these because I don't know if you can process it as well as your sisters. But anyway, I'm going to tell you, y'all been a huge part of my growing closer to God and being able to work on the health of my soul, because y'all, I don't feel like I have to hide. And I feel like y'all have let me make amends for some things to where it's beautiful. So thank y'all for that. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's been probably the most precious thing since y'all been adults.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. And if you have anything that maybe it doesn't have to be a negative, but just something, we're just really wanting to share things with other dads or potential dads that, like, maybe there's a way, could dad have maybe been more strict in a certain way or less strict in a certain way?
Now, baby, they have a lot of things. You don't have to tell them.
Oh, no. I didn't know. It doesn't have to be wrong. It can just be.
Well, but girls, y'all talk about
I have something like, honestly, this is probably a little bit of, honestly, a massive stretch, but I'm just going to say it because it popped into my head. But I think that the leave and cleave thing is something that's like really big, maybe in the South, but I'm the first one that got married. I got married in college. And I think dad, with amazing intentions, you might have, I think, stepped away from the relationship that you and I had a little bit because you didn't want to step on the toes of the fact that I'm married. And like, there's a new like man in my life that, yeah, because I think a lot goes wrong when, a daughter is still like way too attached to their dad when they're married. That can cause a lot of issues. And I'm very aware of that. But I think something that I at least wish, and maybe this is just selfish of me wanting to like still like be around you all the time like I was in high school, but yeah, I just feel like there's a balance that can be found when maybe if you're a dad with daughters, when they get married, where you can still have a very, very close relationship, hang out, but also not, be financially bound to one another or dependent, or even just like competitive in a sense with like the husband. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
total sense.
Yeah.
Total sense.
I felt like, I'll just say this. I felt like when I got married, it was kind of like Judd and Emma and you still had this really strong connection. And I'll be honest, like I put a lot of pressure on Sean, my husband, when we got married, to live up to your standards of how you loved me so well. And I didn't really know I was doing it, but I think I might not have done that had you and I still, and this is not blame at all. Like I'm truly
this is
like,
great.
I literally can't think of anything, but this is true. I think maybe I wouldn't have put so much expectations on Sean to fill that role of you as my dad loving me so well and him as my husband loving me well and all this stuff, when maybe I feel like there could be a balance there between dad-daughter relationship and then them being married, if that makes sense.
And all I want to say is, Ellie, we've talked about this. I felt that you're right. I had such a leave and cleave model. I didn't want to step on Sean's air hose. I wanted him to know he had my 100% blessing to love you well. But Sean invited me to be more involved in your life, to ask you out to lunch. And let's do that. So I think you're absolutely right, Ellie. And I needed some coaching and mentoring on how to do that. Amazing point. I would love to work on that with you.
No, I mean, honestly, that was a stretch, but it was just something. I just think I hope that's encouraging to dads out there, that it's like, you see people crying at weddings and it is so sad because you are giving up your daughter to another man, but I don't think it's like death to that relationship, not that you did that, but I think sometimes people think it is in the South. Yeah. Just like step fully away, and you never did that, but I'm saying this about other people. So anyway,
that's very good. And y'all are very blessed, because I think it can be harder when it's a mother and son, when they're married, that dynamic with the mother-in-law. But I think fathers and daughters, now maybe there are situations that I'm not aware of that happen, but people are usually okay with that being a great relationship.
Right. But like, I understand, like, if I'm like so close to dad that I'm going and asking him to like give me money for something like that.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Right. Like that would be so detrimental, I think, to like Sean and I, and just overstepping a lot of boundaries. I'm just saying from like a relational standpoint, I think it's still really good, even if you live long distance away from, your daughter, to still, take trips together and do stuff like that. So
yeah. Who's next?
It really was hard, but to think of really anything you did negatively. But just to bounce off kind of what we talked about in the other podcast, that just got me thinking is, in a lot of the podcasts, Mom, we love you so much. We talked about how you were kind of harsh and how Dad was on the totally opposite end of the spectrum, not to where he was too nice as a parent, because y'all were both great at discipline and y'all stayed united with that. But Dad, I think because you do love people so well and you do have those people-pleasing qualities that I do, it's just funny looking back at some moments where you were probably also trying to discipline while also trying to be a people pleaser toward us, in a sense of like, you wanted us to still know how much, you loved us. And so I think it's nothing you did wrong, but I think my people pleasing qualities probably come a lot just like from you, and how like you just really genuinely want everyone to know how loved they are and how much you like them. You want them to be happy. And so I don't even know if I'm making sense, but when I think about that, it's not that you were too gentle, but I'm just, thinking back, maybe I got some of those tendencies from you. And also you were so just like, the glass was always half full, that when we were going through hard times, like you said, you would, I think, get under so much pressure to try to like shelter us and mask that from us, which I think you did the right thing. You don't need to throw burdens on kids and everything, but I think you would put unnecessary pressure on yourself. And it just sometimes just was a lot for you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And in Mom and our dynamic, I think sometimes I probably overcompensated, because I felt like Mom, as your mom, was strong, and there were probably times that I went overboard. And I definitely gave you all the unhealthy piece of an image keeper. Judd,
That's
I think
probably what I'm trying to say.
Image keeper. And I want everybody to be happy and encouraged, but sometimes I needed to tell the truth about that situation. And I know what Mom would tell me that I need to work on. I could be, when I was unhealthy, be calling bad things, oh, that's not really that bad, right? No, it was bad. I should have had the guts to call bad and evil. And so, no, I get that, Joe. That's my people pleaser. And I think that's where, Emma and Emma was very open. And Emma, you might could put a fine point on this to where I was like, oh, that's not that bad. We all suffer. That person's not that bad, you know.
I think it's just good to say, like, to preface for me, Judd, Emma and I, that we've never been parents. Like, we don't, Mom, I know you got a DM where this might be, you know, not super helpful to some people. So I just want to say, like, we're saying all this stuff, but we've never been parents before. There's always going to be things that, you know, we could do differently. And I just want to make sure everyone knows that we know that, like, when we're asked to say all this stuff, it's just like, I understand that you can never be perfect as a parent. And so
I've got one question. I know we've rambled some, hopefully some of this will be edited, but social media girls, you know, it was growing up. We're older when Judd, you and Ellie were probably 6th, 7th grade. Just the phones just started coming out, then smartphones. How, I would be very curious how you girls, where you are, just very quickly, how do you think you will view smartphones, social media with your young kids, junior high?
Ellie, you're closer to that than either of us, so you can answer first because I'm not even married yet. But I do have a pretty firm answer on that. I mean, obviously, like we said earlier, I'm not a parent yet, so I will have to figure it out when I get there, and I can say all I want, but I'm not there yet. But Ellie, you go first.
I've had this conversation many times with Sean and then friends of ours. And I'll admit I take more of a conservative approach in life in general, in terms of just better to be safe than sorry. And I think just in my line of work with nutrition and seeing how much social media impacts, especially young girls, just with self-image, but then also even just this encouragement to, you're incentivized to put your body out there, whether it be through just likes from friends or even like financial compensation now. It's just crazy. And I just think I would rather take a more conservative approach and just maybe like try to discourage a free for all when it comes to social media with kids for as long as possible. But again, I do think there's an aspect of parents not being overbearing and allowing kids freedom like y'all did with us, but just within reason. Even just in my own life, like there's just such this temptation just to, like, dopamine is real when it comes to social media, and just this constant feeling like you have to create an image for yourself is so unhealthy. And I just would love if our kids didn't get addicted super young, because it's a battle I have to, being 26 years old or 25, like I have to deal with it right now. And I don't love it for mental health or even just for how much other things can be invited in through social media. So that's just my opinion on it.
I will go off of kind of the way you and Mom raised us. There is just something like wonderful of y'all like closing the door and being like, hey, go play outside with Laura Catherine and John David. And we couldn't drive. We would literally go dig holes in the backyard. Like, we would make our tree house like a store. Like, we would have to get creative with the simple things in life. And I guess if I could predict now how I'd want to raise my kids, is just keep it as simple as possible. Yes, it's probably not realistic to never have a TV show on, or, you know, never have, you know, social media, you know, but just filtering it as much as possible and being their protector and provider, Mom and Dad, like I've always been. And Dad, you've been an amazing protector and provider. I know we made it seem like, you know, you never did that. You did that all the time to the best of your ability.
I will, sorry.
No, but I kind of just want my kids to have the most simple, just delightful childhood with as much a minimalization on social media and TV.
30 second edition. When I say social media, I'm talking about specifically like Instagram. I am so glad that y'all never let us have Snapchat. That, I don't know if Emma ever had it, but I will just say that is the one thing I could have gotten myself into a lot of trouble with. And I saw a lot of people get into trouble with it just because it's just this illusion that things are deleted. And I am just so thankful that you drew a hard line in the sand when it came to Snapchat. Nothing, y'all always said, I remember this, nothing good ever happens past like 9 p.m. is what y'all would say. And like, I just remember that. I'm like, okay, like no one needs to be Snapchatting anyone late at night. Like, I'm just really glad. I'm glad y'all drew.
And I will say to young or potential parents, there's something called parenting outside of the funnel. And that means, correct me if I'm wrong, Zane, is where you give a privilege and then you backpedal and say, well, we're not, okay, you can have Snapchat, and then you learn something new. Okay, now we're going to backpedal, no more Snapchat. That causes lots of dissension. It's better to err on the side of being conservative, holding off on things. And I totally agree with Ellie. Snapchat, I would never, and kids at a certain age, when they graduate, they have to make that decision. But when things are going away, which they're really not going away, it's incentive sometimes to do things.
All right. And Emma, I'm very curious to hear about you, because I know you came up at a different time in Snapchat. I think you started using it late high school, big time in college. But what are your concepts of this? Because I know you talk a lot about body image as well with social media.
I think Ellie's response was awesome, and Judd's, but Ellie's I resonate with a lot, just in the sense of like, just letting my children, like obviously not being too strict to where they rebel, but putting parameters on, like we're not having iPads laying around the house. They're not getting iPads. Playtime is playtime. You're not getting on technology. You're not getting on your phone. I'm minimizing heavily, I think, in my house when I am older, playtime outside. Like in our home, there won't be sitting around watching shows being on an iPad, because I think in this day and age too, with the stuff people are promoting, it's sick. Like even on Instagram, like you see everything on my page is like weight loss, how to lose 20 pounds, it's just this sick, like your ribs need to be showing, and that's how you know you're thin. It's just a sick ideology that infiltrates our minds, and that's why everyone is so, depression has gone up so much. I mean, it's like you're never satisfied. And I think just trying, like not giving it to them at an early age either, like middle school and stuff, I just feel like no need for Snapchat, of course. And then like Instagram, I think just trying to postpone that as late as possible.
And I think something that y'all did really well was I was talking to a mom who I love and had babysat her kids for years the other day. And she was like, it's just such a gift to like let your kids know that you delight in them. You love spending time with them. You love taking them to the library. Like they're not a bother. Like Dad, you would drop, weeks at a time and take off work to spend intentional time with us. Mom, you did the same, maybe not in a sense of traveling, but you were never too busy to just slam an iPad in front of our face or just turn the TV on and say, hey, y'all go in there. Y'all always were available and let us know you genuinely enjoyed us. You genuinely loved us and that you were there for us. And I think so many times it's a tool for parents to just kind of get their kids, out of their way or, whatever. And y'all never did that, which I think was so huge because we were always secure in that. And it wasn't an avenue y'all had to use just to be a distraction.
Well, guys, I think I feel like our time is probably up, but is there anything anyone wants to end with? I will say it was very, very difficult to find anything negative to say about Dad. He loves everybody, but he's loved y'all well. I'm sure there are things he could have done better, but there's probably not. I have always thought it's going to be very hard to find someone that you're going to marry. I feel like you're going to have to be very careful not to compare. I would think it would be hard to go from having a dad like your dad and then getting married, because not many people are like Dad. And
it helps when your husband is obsessed with your dad, and it's, he thinks that he's the greatest person that's ever walked the face of the earth. So Sean tries to be you in literally every way. And I'm like, wow, what a blessing that my husband worships the ground you walk on. So
that makes me, I love that, Sean, but also that, that
and he does sort of have your dad's personality too. It's interesting.
Yeah, and it's not, and Jamie, I think you're coming from, it's not because I'm this great person. I have a certain personality.
Yeah, you have
and I'm finding this out about me. I'm not that great of a person. I am a pretty good person to live with, though, because I don't get frustrated. I mean, it's just that's the way I came here. That's not because of my Christian virtues. I've got issues in the background and a darkness, but my personality, I think, is what it would make it tough to be. I'm a good roommate.
Don't try to, but you keep trying to come up with bad things about yourself, and really all I have to say is you're like, I'm not this. Yes, you are. You are the best person literally in the world, and no one can stop talking about you. There's going to be a million people at your funeral. You're amazing.
Two things that I'll add. Number one, you were if I told any dad, how can you be the best dads to your kids? Probably the top thing on the list was what Ellie said earlier. Loving God first and submitting to him and doing that, because everything else, is an overflow of your love and relationship and submission to God. And then also, after God, the way you've always loved Mom has just been so beautiful. And as a child, even now, my security, a lot of it was just so good because I knew that you like loved mom and you were kind to her and you put her before us and like we were going to be fine because she was your number one. And then also my last thing I'll say is I feel like this podcast was just a little odd because we kept going on all these rabbit holes because it really is so hard. Like today I was like, oh my goodness, what did my dad do negatively? And so I think we went off on a lot of tangents and like, I do want you to know they were great tangents, but you are truly, amazing. And I hope we didn't like harp on things and make it a bigger issue than it was.
No, this has been good. I mean, again, I can't believe we're processing this for mom's people, but this is pretty. This
if anyone,
y'all, our next one, y'all should talk about what we did wrong as kids.
No, well, y'all, and other families are like, there's something about our family. We are like coaches that we all like. Here's what you did great. Here's what you did wrong. And some families, I think, will view us as kind of strange. Like, I mean, I want to be better, and I feel terrible remembering things I did, but I know y'all forgiving me. But I feel like y'all are like coaches. Here's what I did well, but here's where I wasn't prepared and I didn't do well. Maybe I was ignorant. Maybe I wasn't listening. Maybe I was in sin. But I think our family is unique. We can be critical in a way that I don't feel like y'all are dissing me. I don't feel like we don't have fellowship. So I do think that's something our family, and mom and I've always said, we've had friends that are like, man, y'all are clinical. Even like in our marriage, mom and I are pretty clinical. Like, this is what I wish you were different, or this person, I wish you had more of their attributes, right? We're odd on that. And I do kind of like that about our family, but we try not to sweep stuff under the rug, I think. So anyway, it's kind of weird that we're talking about these heavy concepts, but it's real. And I think we have to be healthy enough in God's love for us that we can start wondering, like, why is it that I was able to slip into that? So anyway, I agree, Judd and Ellie, this is kind of an interesting processing.
Well, if anyone out there watching or listening has questions, you always feel free to send them. Jamie@familysavvy.com, because we'll answer anything, won't we, guys? I can't think of anything we wouldn't answer. Just if there's any way we can help, just having. And
if any of us don't want to answer it, Jamie will answer it for us.
No. So, well, listen, thank you all for being on. And Zane, thank you. You are a great dad, a great husband. Thank you for taking time to sit under the spotlight. And I'll let you all get back to your Sunday, but y'all have a great day. And everyone watching and listening, thank you so much for being. And until next time, you have a very blessed day.